On this week's show, we take you into Peloton Studios London and Peloton Studios New York with member preview days.
And we'll discuss new features on the Peloton website, as well as the Peloton iOS app, and much, much more.
Welcome to Pelo Buddy TV, a show for the Peloton community by the Peloton community. Here are your hosts, Amanda Siegel and John Pruitt.
Welcome to episode 86 of Pelo Buddy TV, a show for the Peloton community by the Peloton community. I'm Amanda Siegel, and I am joined by my co-host, John Pruitt. Hey, John.
Hey now, Amanda. How are you?
I am good. I know we had some very sad and unhappy Pelo Buddy fan club who missed our show last week. You guys just couldn't get your stuff together, huh? I mean, Amanda's not there and we can't have a show.
There's no one to replace you.
No, I'm irreplaceable. You, Prue, on the other hand, are a little bit replaceable.
Yeah, you can get somebody to film for me from time to time.
We got Jackie, we got Nicole, we got some
Tony,
some people, but Tony, exactly. But yeah, sorry folks, but I did have a fun weekend away, and I guess we're going to come in this week with a bang. There is tons and tons to share with you guys. So before we get started with the news, we always like to remind you guys how you can keep up to date with all of our content across all of our platforms. Every episode is released on our YouTube channel. Just hit the subscribe button at the bottom right-hand side of the video and hit the notify button so that you never miss an episode.
Yep. And if you want to just listen to us while you're on the go, we are on all podcast platforms. Just search Pelo Buddy TV, hit subscribe, click notifications so you never miss an episode, and leave us a review. If you're enjoying the show, we'd love to hear the positive feedback that we receive from the Pelo Buddy community. So let us know how we're doing.
Awesome. And finally, folks, we are on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So just search Pelo Buddy and follow us on these platforms so that you never miss an episode. And I guess, John, let's get right into the show.
All right.
First, let's do a rundown of the latest Pelo news.
All right, folks. So we did have the privilege of chatting with Jules Katharina, who some of you might remember from many moons ago, used to be our German instructor and would give us all the down low on what was happening in the German community. Well, Jules was, in fact, invited last week to the opening of Peloton Studios London and gave us an amazing interview, literally from start to finish, of her experience in the studio. It turned out to be a 20-minute interview. So what we've decided to do is to throw that in at the end of the episode so that we can go right into the news and kind of address everything that is going on. There's lots of Peloton, obviously Peloton studio information we're going to go ahead and give you. But the interview with Jules, stay tuned, because if you hang on till the end of the show, you'll get to hear all the little secrets about what happened at PSL. And it was fantastic. So thrilled for Jules that she got to be there. And we just hang on and you'll get to hear more.
Nice.
So yeah, John, I guess, it was awesome. It was awesome to hear what was, my firsthand, behind the scenes.
Well, I thought it was I was watching the recent video that Peloton and Maddie Majacomo posted of Maddie walking through the whole tread studio, and then he turns the camera over to several other instructors to tour the different spaces, and I made little notes of amount of spots in each studio at Peloton Studios New York, because Dennis and it was just it's a 3-minute video, so it's super quick. But it was kind of interesting because he kind of walked around all the different, spaces that members are allowed to be in there. And Dennis was the one who gave us a quick tour of the cycling studio. And he said there's 39 bikes. Kira gave us a little tour of the yoga studio. I mean, she just was standing in the yoga studio. It wasn't much of a tour. But there's only 7 mats, 7 spaces in the yoga studio. So very intimate little studio there if you're lucky to get a spot. The strength studio, Maddie gave us that little tour, 8 spots. So pretty intimate class setting as well for the strength studio. And then the treads, Selena did a quick tour of that, 16 treads for members to run or walk or, do classes on there. And then it was funny. I watched the video with Ben Aldis and Selena, and they both talked about getting logged in so you can high five. You can't high five from the equipment at the studio. I think they were I think that was incorrect information unless something has changed.
John, I think you can.
You can.
It's changed, John. You can.
Oh.
Yep, you can.
Oh, shit.
So, yeah, you can. So there you go, Mr. High Fiver. You can be in studio and you can continue your reputation. You can high five.
Interesting. Because back when you and I rode, the leaderboard in the studio was just the people in the studio. You couldn't see anyone else that was on the Peloton app or riding or running at home. And you couldn't send or receive high fives. So that's kind of interesting that they've, I guess they really want you to stay connected when you're in the studio. So kudos.
I like that. Yeah, I like that.
Because I was watching it and I was saying to myself, no, you can't do that. Why are they telling us that? And then, well, I stand corrected.
Yeah. So I guess they did, as you said, Maddie introduced the New York studio, and then you're quite right. Jermaine Johnson did a little video for London and had him and Ben. Interestingly enough, I don't know if you picked up on that. Did you get to watch the Jermaine one for London?
I watched a little bit of the London one. I did notice that Ben said there's 24 bikes in the London cycling studio. So significantly, and the room, I've seen the room looks tiny. It isn't like there's rows and rows of bikes. It's almost like one.
Just 2, right? Just 2 rows. Yeah, just 2 rows of bikes.
2 rows, yeah.
And again, Jules will talk about it in her interview. So there are 2 rows. But interestingly enough, there is no member participation for strength in London. So it is just going to be cycling and tread. I did pick up on that. So that I thought was interesting. And
I wonder if they
have another modality.
Space limitation, space and equipment limitation.
I mean, it's considerably smaller than New York for sure. Space in London is such at a high demand. So I know that the studio definitely is smaller, but Jules talks about it and it's just fantastic. I had gotten a DM, and I will give her a shout out, from Roz Reich. Her leaderboard name is Roz Reich 72. She had actually been in on Friday, John. So she was in just this past Friday, and got to experience the tread studio. So interestingly enough, which was interesting because she doesn't own a tread, was invited to be in the tread studio, and doesn't run. It was New York, in the New York studio. So she doesn't run, but she asked if she could switch to cycling, and they said she could. It was a Hannah Corbin ride. She decided to stick with tread, and she said that the experience was absolutely incredible. Roz said that from the minute she walked in until the very end, it was just the most amazing experience. She said they gave her a tour of the studio. She said there was tons of people standing around and helping and being very interactive with the members. She said they took the time to talk to her, answer any questions that she had. Interestingly enough, whilst they do allow you to take pictures, you are not allowed to do it with your own phone. So you can, there is that spot, and this is for New York. Jules didn't clarify whether London, they took the pictures or you could take them with your phone. If Control Room has that answer, they do take the pictures in London as well. Okay, great. So Control Room did say that London's the same. So I thought that was interesting. So there's somebody there that's taking pictures. You cannot do it with your own phone. And then she
need
said
after the class in the designated
after
picture
class,
space.
Yep.
So they use their own camera for that.
They use their own camera. You can go up with the coach. There's now she sent the picture, and we can certainly pop it on here so folks that are watching the show on YouTube can get to see it. It's not at that P that we all thought that it was going to be at. It's actually a hand painted P on the wall. With stripes, that's where they took the pictures in New York. So it's either bike or in front of the P, all right? And then they emailed them at the end of the day with thanking them for being in the studio, and the email as well. We can pop up here. Roz gave us full kudos to do whatever we wanted with the information, which was so lovely. And they emailed at the end of the day for the folks that were in the studio, and then there was a link that you could get on to the, pictures. So thank you so much, Roz, for sharing that information. It was nice to be able to include that in the show for today.
Very cool.
Yeah, had you heard anything else? John?
Not from anyone that's been there about their experience. I know that I'm signed up to go on July 8th, but I haven't heard from them yet. I did see someone post a picture, a screenshot of their email that they were declined, that they had already filled for whatever date that they put in. That unfortunately, they said, we're, our slots have all been filled.
Quota.
Yeah.
All right.
But I haven't received that yet. Hopefully I don't get that message at any point.
I've put in for every Friday except next week because I'm hosting a bridal shower and I can't be in New York that weekend. But I've put in for every other weekend, so I am crossing my fingers that I get to do that. Otherwise, I don't know. I may have to find an excuse to go to London, because I think it's a bit easier to get into London than it may be to get into New York. from what I'm hearing, I mean, seriously. Anyway, yeah, John, so kind of moving on, there has been some clarification over the past week as to when members will actually be able to work out in the studios. And from what we've gathered, in-person classes will be Friday through Sunday only once the studio fully reopens. So members will only be able to participate in classes that are held on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We're still waiting for further clarifications as to whether all the classes on the weekend will have in-person participation or just some of them. But classes that are held Monday through Thursday will be obviously coach to camera, live classes, but just no members in the classes. So that gives those folks that are, not that happy about the fact that members are now going to be in the class an opportunity to do just coach to camera, but still be able to get their shout outs and that type of thing. There will be, so that's something that'll happen there. I've also heard that potentially there will only be shout outs for folks that are in the studio, in the member, the ones that the members are in. They'll only do shout outs for members that are in the studio. So I don't know whether that'll come to fruition or not, but somebody did say that they'd heard that, which I thought was kind of weird.
That's kind of random.
Yeah, right. Because I mean, look, I would definitely go up to New York to do a milestone, run or ride if I knew that there was a good opportunity I'd get a shout out. And that's a whole nother conversation. But yeah, so for now, the PSNY is asking for either a proof of vaccination or a negative PCR test. If the member has neither, then they are required to wear a mask while working out. So that's kind of what we're getting on the down low for right now. It hasn't yet been clarified, though, whether those requirements will continue into August once the studio opens fully. But if you can, provide, either the vaccination or the PCR, or you have to wear a mask. Interestingly enough, Jules does talk about it in her interview, but London doesn't ask for anything. So those are kind of the rules in London right now, where they're just going about their business quite normally. So it does have you sign something saying that you're cycling at your own risk. So I guess if you do get COVID, you can't go back and say, well, I got it from the studio. So it's a waiver. Exactly.
Gotcha.
And again, members will have the opportunity to have pictures taken, as we just spoke about. It has been specifically noted that there will be no touching, which I thought was interesting. And Roz did say that as well. She said that they did say that, although she had seen somebody that was very close to Matt Wilpers earlier in the day in a picture. So who knows, how strict they're going to be as things progress. And certainly, for someone like you, if you're going to go in, Rebecca Kennedy's not going to not touch, she's not going to hug you or, okay, we won't get too explicit, but she's not going to not touch you. You know what I'm saying? So I guess that'll be something that we'll just have to wait and see what happens. But Roz, and in the picture that will pop up here, she, stood on one side of the P, Marcel was on the other side of the P, and it was, very, very specific, which I didn't think was bad. I'm fine with that, whatever. If you folks are wondering who got invited to the Friday sessions before the studio fully reopens, what we had heard, and Peloton had in fact indicated on social media, that it was folks who had classes canceled back in March 2020. So if anybody had been signed up to do a class back in March, probably March and probably was just March, because I guess it was just that week. You can only sign up a week before. Those were the first people that were, and that's again for New York. I don't know if that's what the case was in London, but for New York, that was apparently those folks, that did that. And then, John, for folks that don't live in New York or London, but
one thing I want to, before we discuss showrooms, I wanted to bring up one observation that I did notice about. So I did last Friday the 10th, I did the live DJ ride with Cody and John Michael, where they had members in the studio. And one thing that I noticed was that compared to 23rd Street, the cycling studio was really well lit. You could pretty much see every person pretty well compared to the old studio in Chelsea, which, it was pretty dark.
For London too.
It was super dark in the old studio, except for those couple front row bikes where the light would sort of just glare off of that person, on that bike. Yeah. And I was also surprised the bike seemed much closer to the instructor stage than...
I thought that too.
Maybe that's just because it was so well lit and you could really see how close, in proximity they were to the stage. But just... And I did see a few people wearing masks, like you'd pointed out about the requirements. But
got it.
Yeah, I don't know if that was just special for that class, or if that's going to be the normal lighting package brightness. But the whole room was pretty well lit up.
Yeah, I didn't notice that, but I did notice in London for Eric Yeager's ride, that you could see members. You could, a little distracting. I will be honest. I thought that, someone was talking about perhaps they're going to tell people to wear like muted clothing, maybe blacks or darker clothing, which I think is a good thing. So yeah, John Pruitt, you're not going to be able to wear your, Cody shirt,
my Kool-Aid man shirt,
it, or your
that's not very muted.
Right. And I think the same thing goes for people with caps on or things in their hair. It was definitely very distracting to see that. So I would definitely be one. I mean, I love having the members, and I think the vibe and the adrenaline, and Jules talks about that so eloquently when she talks about her in-studio experience. I don't want to spoil it, but there's no question that there is a fantastic vibe and adrenaline that goes through everybody. But I did want to say, sorry, and I want to kind of move on. We have so much to talk about, so I want to kind of run through all of this. But I did want to say that for those folks that aren't able to get to New York or obviously be in London, for folks in the US and Canada, and you do want a different experience than just riding from home, they are doing a thing through the summer where you can actually ride or run in your showroom. So it will be they're offering members, it's just one class at 5:45 p.m. Eastern time. But the ability to work out in the store, you would need to obviously reach out to your local showroom and book that, because obviously there's just a handful of bikes or trades to be able to do that. So you'd have to book your time slot. It would be on a first come, first serve basis. It is obviously, as space is available, and it will be dependent on varying locations. So, not sure if everybody's going to be offering it. You'd have to obviously contact your showroom. They will provide you with complimentary shoe rental. So you can certainly go in and use shoes that are there, as well as water that's being provided. And interestingly enough, and I'll kind of veer off onto this, I did that last week. So it was before this had happened, but I had been in the Aventura Mall down in Florida, down in Miami on the Thursday night, and I was doing my 200th run on Friday. And I was chatting to the sales associate, and she was so lovely. And she said to me, and I would have just done it on the app, to be honest with you, I would have been just as happy to have done it on the tread in the gym in my apartment and have done it on the app. And she said to me, don't be silly. She goes, come and do it here. It'll be fantastic. We'd love to have you. Of course, she knew about Pelo Buddy, so that was exciting. And the minute she saw me, she was like, oh my God, you're like Amanda from Pelo Buddy. And I was like, I am, which was kind of cool. But anyway, I did it in the showroom. And folks, if you can get the opportunity to do it, do it. And I'll tell you why. Because, John, I've spoken about wanting to look at potentially switching out my Tread Plus to the regular tread.
Yeah.
And I ran on the regular tread. And I got to tell you, I really liked it. I really liked it. Yes, it is smaller. I don't know if it was the adrenaline of being in the showroom. I don't know if it was the fact that I was doing a milestone run, or that I was doing it with, of course, John Husking, who, needless to say, and I will be very humble and admit it on air, I did not get a shout out. And he will pay for this for a very long time. We joke about it now, but of course it was his first run live in the studio in London. But my point being is that I flew. I had a personal best that was 30 over my last run personal best. So I don't know if I can equate it to the tread, not being the Tread Plus, whether it was my new Adidas Parlay sneakers, trainers that I had just bought, or the fact that it was, in fact, John and an amazing run. So, folks, I encourage you to do it. If you have a showroom near you and you're in the States or in Canada and you can go in and do a run or do, a cycle in the studio, go for it. It's so much fun. They treat you amazingly. They are just excited to have members coming in. So I absolutely encourage you to do it.
Were you in a private room, or were you out on the showroom floor? Okay.
No,
gotcha.
They put me in a private room, and I was happy to do that, especially being a run. I didn't quite know how I was going to fare. So I figured that was a good thing. They had one private tread room, one private bike room, and then obviously they had in the showroom. And my understanding is you can pick where you want to be. So, Yeah. So that was kind of fun.
Very cool. I used to ride in the showroom all the time when I'd go back to New Jersey before I started going to the studio. Yeah, I would be right in the window at the Short Hills Mall in New Jersey. And every now and then, they would sell a bike and they would give me the credit. I'd lure people in.
Yeah. I did it in London. I've done it at the Marylebone store also numerous times. If it was like an early morning ride and I was staying around the corner, I would go into the showroom in Marylebone and do my rides there. So it is fun. It is a fun experience, and they get excited because they sit around for most of the time. So
it's a little
nice to
free advertising with the actual members working out on the equipment there, demonstrating.
Exactly.
Well, we have some news, a little bit of news for iOS Peloton app users. The Just Workout feature should now be fully available to everyone that uses the iOS app. So the little beta tag that was next to it for folks that had early access to it has been removed. So that's gone. And Peloton had made sort of an announcement about it on their official blog post on June 13th. And also stay tuned for it to be available on Android. And there will also be some new class types that will be added soon as well. And for anyone that hasn't ventured that much into the app or used Just Workout, it basically brings the equivalent of the Just Run or Just Ride feature from the tread and the bike to outdoor activities. So it'll just allow you to track and get credit for any walk, run, or ride that you do outside. And previously, to get credit, you'd have to start and play any random Peloton class on the app. But if you were doing a longer activity, you'd have to start and play multiple classes, obviously. But this mode it's like free mode. It doesn't have a playlist. There's no instructor talking to you. But when this past week, when Jackie and I and Jackson, we went to the Cedar Point Amusement Park in Ohio, Jackie put on the Just Workout feature for all the walking that we did. So I don't know how long, it was like 8 hours of however long she had that going on the app. Wow. in her pocket as we were walking around all day long at Cedar Point. But I got in, I haven't used it yet. I got in a ride that morning, so I got my blue dot for that day already. But however many hours, she has like an 8-hour stretch of Just Workout on her activity that day.
That's fantastic.
So you get your blue dot.
I used it too. Yeah, I used it down in Miami, and I have to say what I like about it is that you're able to take a phone call and it doesn't stop. So if you're on a walk and you're listening to a class, it stops, it pauses the class if your phone rings. So that was a little bit frustrating. So sometimes I'd walk and I'd want to get my blue dot, or I'd want to get some kind of activity going for the day, but it would be frustrating because I couldn't make a call, or I'd have to keep the app open.
Keep it going.
So I do like the fact. Yeah, I do like the fact.
Yeah, it just passively
my own playlist. Yeah.
It just passively runs in the background. So yeah, you just do whatever, multitask while you have it going.
That's awesome. Well, we're definitely seeing tons of change. It appears that Peloton has also rolled out an updated home screen on the web browser. There's a brand new home tab that was previously unavailable. So now for members who would see the classes tab as the default page, this page does allow you to select a fitness modality such as strength, yoga, or cycling and view recent classes. Some members are also seeing a default home tab that contains information similar to what you would see on the bike or tread. So when you would go in there at the very top page, you would see your streak of how many days you've worked out and, that type of information. That's now on the web, which I think is pretty interesting. And then below that, you'll see a list of fitness categories to choose from. What I absolutely love about this update is the ability to search classes and artists. So in the section that says fitness category, you then click on that, and it was there previously. So control room telling me that's actually been there for a month or two. I hadn't seen that. And I have to tell you, for me, that's the best thing that they ever did, because I used to be so frustrated unless I was going to pelobuddy.com and taking a look at what classes were under a certain artist series, or going in to see kind of the Disney, the Disney stuff that they had on there. Or now you can, it gives you suggested searches. So for example, mine popped up with like Broadway, Spice Girls, AFO, Britney, or Boot Camp. But I typed in Streisand and it gave me everybody that was doing a workout with the Barbra Streisand artist series. So I thought that was amazing. I didn't know we never mentioned it on the show. So I mean, how were we supposed to know, Chris L, if we don't mention it on the show? But I don't believe we mentioned it on the show. But anyway, for those of you who don't see the home tab on the web browser, keep looking out for it because I do believe that it will likely pop up soon. But I thought that was great.
Very cool. I long for the day when on the app I can type in a name of a music artist like I can on the bike or the tread to search for classes.
That's what I'm telling you. You can do that now.
No,
That's
for the
exactly
app.
what I'm saying.
You're talking
On
about the
app.
website.
On the web. Oh, sorry. Yes.
On the Peloton
I
app.
have it. You know what? You're right. You're absolutely right. But again, I have it down. So I have the web as an icon on my phone. So that's why I have two Peloton. I have my app, and then I have that to do. It's sometimes easier to go in and look at all, because you can't see everything for the day on the app either. For the schedule.
I use a Chrome browser to filter by all, so I can count myself in for however many. So then I pull it up on the app. Yeah, but now that's good to know. Yep. Now I can search music. I don't have to go down to the basement.
That's exactly what you can do. Exactly. I mean, you just go straight in here. I'll show you guys. If you kind of go
episode 69,
apparently. Oh, really? That was a while ago. Huh. All right. Sorry, Chris L. All right, John, let's keep going.
All right. So we would have talked all about this had we had an episode last week, but almost 2 weeks ago, all the instructors in New York and London, they all gathered at Peloton Studios, New York, for a global instructor meetup. And there was posts all over social from One Peloton, from the instructors' individual pages, but it looks like they did a lot of team building exercises. There was, social things that they were going out, to dinner and hanging out in the evening. So there's all sorts of different activities leading up to that first Peloton preview day, which was for the press that was invited to do some of the classes that they offered in person on that Friday, June 10th. It's funny, there was a lot of speculation. Jen Sherman was noticeably absent from a lot of the activity. And it's just funny the way some members, when they see something, there's all this speculation, all these things, people wondering what happened to her, why wasn't she there, all these, all this chatter about it. And it was funny because Jen took notice and made mention of it, I think, in her Sunday a week ago, her sold out show ride, and just, said she had been under the weather. And I think that's why she couldn't attend. She missed a full day of events. She also missed Christine. She was supposed to be at Christine D'Ercol's wedding. And she missed that because she was under the weather. But it was funny how she
spoke about it.
Yeah, it was funny how she commented. She's like, "You people are crazy. Maybe we need to come up with another tag for the crazy members that always worry about me, something along those lines." But yeah, even Benny and all the instructors across the pond, Eric Yeager. It was real fun seeing everybody and so many instructors meeting for the first time in person that hadn't met. Since a lot of them came on, at the beginning of the pandemic. So it was kind of fun seeing a lot of those interactions unfolding all over social media.
Yeah. So, John, it's interesting because, I was in New York. I had no idea that this was happening. A lot of people were like, did you know? No, I had no idea. I obviously knew that there was, that Benny was going to be in town. He had mentioned it to us, but I had no idea that this was going to happen. And I always stay downtown because that's where my daughter lives. So I'm always down there with her. And I happened to have stayed Midtown at Hudson Yards at the Courtyard Marriott, the new Courtyard Marriott that they've opened up next door, which for folks, I will tell you, is fantastic. It is a fantastic hotel. So if you're going to go for the weekend to ride in studio, I would highly recommend you look at that Courtyard Marriott. And I am not being endorsed by Marriott, I wish, but it is a great hotel. It was the most painful experience because I was so close and yet so far. And of course, I'm fortunate enough that I was able to, I messaged with some of the instructors and they were just jam-packed. I did not expect them to see me. I absolutely did not expect it in any way. It would have been lovely to have run into them. But I was actually there on the Wednesday, and I guess most of them were flying out early. A bunch of the UK ones flew out early on Wednesday morning. So I missed them. And then the others, were finishing up their time in New York. But it was one of those, bittersweet moments, because I was right there. I could, touch it, and it wasn't happening. It wasn't happening. But wow, it really looked like a fun experience. And I think what an incredible bonding and opportunity, as you said, for those that haven't met, each other, and those that came in through the pandemic. And it's enviable. I mean, we've spoken about it before, but the camaraderie, the relationships that the instructors all have is no doubt a very enviable, thing in that, when you see that, because they really are lovely, lovely together. And it was just wonderful. And I love that Peloton shared all of that with us, and they didn't keep it under wraps, because it's fun for us. For us as members who really love our instructors, it was lovely to get to see the American and the German and the UK all befriending each other and seeing each other in that light. So really loved that they did that. Well, talking about the instructors, John, there's a lot of buzz about a Time magazine article that was released this past week that was titled "The Big Business of Being a Peloton Instructor," and it featured instructors Robin Arzan, Ali Love, Cody Rigsby, Emma Lovewell, Alex Toussaint, and it also featured Peloton's Chief Content Officer, Jennifer Cotta. The article was focused and each one of those instructors, and how they are so much more than just fitness instructors. It talked about how that at this point, they truly are influencers. And we've said that how many times? Oh, there they go again, Noon, Matt Wolpesetti's Noon, and
all these partnerships.
Jen Sherman, and exactly. So they've been
Jen Sherman and Beauty Pie.
And what's the other one that her drink that she
Go Hydration.
Go Hydrate.
Go Hydrate.
Go Hydrate. Go Hydrate, which I went out and bought, and I don't like it. Sorry, Jen Sherman. But it's just tasteless. But anyway, so basically, the article went on to say how they have truly become influencers, partnering with all these different companies, and to promote their brands. And Jennifer Cotta was saying in the article how, she really had to work with these companies and help the instructors, facilitate those relationships. It was a wonderful article about her and the amazing job that she's done as well. It truly is a brilliant article. And if you haven't seen it yet, definitely head over to pelobuddy.com to make sure that you get a read of that article, because it was one of the best articles I have read about Peloton and those specific 5 instructors and what they're doing. I thought it was great.
Well, one thing I noticed was that Robin said she makes more money with her partnerships than she does for her salary as a Peloton employee.
Isn't that interesting? I did see that too. I didn't know if I should bring it up or not, but yeah, I did see that. And
I thought it was interesting that she disclosed that.
Yeah,
that she that she got that that she opened up about that. I mean, she didn't say what she makes or anything, but I just thought that was interesting that she mentioned that. I always wait to see what new product Cody's going to sling next, because he seems like he promotes everything.
Whoever will have him.
The he's got bills to pay.
Too funny.
Anyhow.
Right.
Well, I'm sure most of you have now heard the news that Selena Samuela, tread and strength coach, is pregnant. She's expecting her first child with her husband, Matt. She made the announcement right at the top of her 20-minute arms and shoulders strength class back on Sunday, June 5th. We have a link to the video that she posted on Instagram. And we also posted the clip too on the Pelo Buddy page. But Selena, she's the 5th Peloton instructor in recent months to share that she's expecting. We had Anna Greenberg, Jess King, Chelsea Jackson Roberts, and Bex Gentry, who are all also currently pregnant, all sharing their news during live classes. So They just one after another.
They're drinking something at Peloton Studios, New York.
Then we're gonna have Peloton. We're gonna have the Peloton Peloton daycare center for when you want to go take a class. You can drop your kiddo off at the daycare.
Alex DeSant will be watching all the kids.
And it'll say, "This is daycare."
Exactly.
Anyway.
Exactly. Well, talking about pregnancies and daycare, happy Father's Day to all the dads out there, with today being Father's Day. Peloton did go ahead and release a bunch of Father's Day classes that were dropped both on demand and live. We got to see a 20-minute ride with Ben Aldis, a 20-minute run with John Husking, a 30-minute yoga flow with Dennis Morton, and then live, all dropping today, was Kendall Toole had a 30-minute ride. Selena Samuela had a 20-minute boot camp. And lastly, Camila Roman did a 30-minute ride in Spanish. So hope all the dads out there have a wonderful Father's Day. And from us here at Pelo Buddy, happy Father's Day.
And Peloton has also announced their 2022 Juneteenth classes. They shared the news via Instagram saying, "This weekend, we unite in lifting up the power and joy of our Black community. June 19th is a day to commemorate Juneteenth, an annual celebration of freedom that marks the anniversary of the day in 1865 when enslaved people in Texas finally learned that they were free." There's 8 total classes across a few different modalities, including Tunde Speak Up Ride. There's a yoga flow and meditation. There's a Muhammad Ali boxing class, and there's several Juneteenth classes and a special lane break release. You can find a complete list of them on pelobuddy.com.
And
there's also a badge. There's also a badge for the Juneteenth classes. Can't forget that.
All right, awesome. Yep, no, you can't forget that, because I'm about to share an artist series with the iconic and legendary Barbra Streisand. And I saw some eye rolls. I know there's some eye rolls, but I gotta tell you, for me, this artist series was just fantastic. 6 classes were dropped, all on Wednesday, June 15th. So this past Wednesday, there was a live ride with Leanne. As well as a German live ride with Benny Adami. There's a walk with German instructor, a live walk with German instructor Tobias Heinz, and a live yoga flow with Ross Rayburn. And if you were able to catch these as well, they had, that dropped on demand, a 10-minute stretch with Robin Arzan and a 10-minute cool down ride with Christine de Urkeley. Interestingly enough, which I noticed because I've done pretty much the entire series, is there is a badge for completing the Barbra Streisand classes, but it's a Pride badge and not an artist series badge. So I thought that was pretty interesting, that was what they did. Being Pride Month, etc., it's fitting. And Barbra has always been such a huge advocate for, the Pride community and for the LGBTQ community, that I did find that was interesting. I have to tell you, John, I don't know who can't like Barbra Streisand. Come on. I mean, her music is so phenomenal. And as I said, I've pretty much done the whole series. I have not done Tobias's walk, but I think that I'm definitely going to try and jump on that today and get that out of the way as well. But everything else was, and I'm not going to spoil it because there were a couple in my picks of the week, but it was one of the better ones. Absolutely fantastic.
I also heard you get a special additional badge if you take a Barbra Streisand class and you don't fall asleep during the class. You stay awake the whole time.
Benny will be very upset to hear that, okay? Because he did. Unfortunately, I had submitted my picks of the week already by the time I had jumped on Benny's ride. But Leanne's ride was probably one of the. It's the best ride I've ever done. It was fantastic.
Come on.
It was hers, Christine de Urkeley's. Her 10-minute cool down. I was sobbing. She talks about how when she was listening to You Don't Bring Me Flowers, and how she looked over at Brian as she was making the playlist, and having just gotten married, she was feeling very emotional, and she looked at him and said, "Don't ever fall out of love with me." And that was kind of what she, oh, come on. Barbra Streisand's iconic.
Oh,
She's just a legend.
Lord. We got to move on.
All right, move on. I mean, what, Wu-Tang? Go for it.
Well, Robin, speaking of other better artist series, with about 66 minutes left in Robin Arzon's recent 30-minute 90s hip-hop ride from Wednesday, June 15th, she hinted at a possible Wu-Tang Clan artist series. She said, "Wu-Tang fans, stay tuned. Stay tuned. I just spilled the tea. I just spilled a little tea." So it sounds like we're going to be getting a Wu-Tang Clan artist series sometime in the future. Sounds like, pretty soon, because I feel like they announce these just a day or two before they happen. They're so, quick about it. There's not that much lead time to when they actually go down. So
John,
stay tuned. Could be next week.
Do I even admit that I haven't got a frigging clue who Wu-Tang is? Do I admit that?
It's all right.
Is it admittable? I'm a Barbra Streisand fan, okay?
It's not your fault, Amanda. It's not your fault.
We're moving on. Let's talk about management. There is some more change happening in the management team. Chief Financial Officer Jill Woodworth has stepped down. And just this past week, Peloton announced that new Chief Financial Officer Liz Cuddington will replace Woodworth. John Foley had put out a tweet thanking Woodworth for 4 incredible years as the CFO. He said working with her was a joy and a privilege, and he enjoyed every minute. According to a PR Newswire article, Woodworth will remain with Peloton as a consultant during the transition. Coddington began her role back on June 13th, so this past week. And CEO Barry McCarthy shared a statement welcoming her. She has 20 years experience, most recently with Amazon Web Services, but she has also worked at Netflix, where McCarthy had previously been CFO. So there is definitely a connection there, and I'm sure that he was the one that precipitated her ending up coming onto the Peloton management team. She does have a bachelor's degree from MIT, and she holds an MBA from the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. So interesting change there.
Well, could Peloton also be looking for a new CTO? Because the chief technology officer, who was also the co-founder of the company, quietly left back in March. In a recent Peloton investor presentation used last month as the company was trying to raise some money, Peloton had indicated they were more publicly positioning themselves as a software company rather than a hardware company. But one interesting thing that was spotted was on page 31 of the presentation deck. Peloton outlined the core management team that is tasked with driving turnaround, noting that they'll be adding to this team in the future as they transition priorities. They also make clear they're trying to focus more on the software than the hardware. But, they mentioned the current teams, the new CEO, Barry McCarthy, as well as Peloton's new chief supply chain officer and chief people officer. But interestingly, co-founder and CTO Yoni Fang, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, is not included among the core management team. He's no longer listed on the Peloton website, and according to his LinkedIn profile, it appears that he stepped away from the company sometime earlier last year. And it doesn't appear that Peloton has named a replacement CTO, and it isn't clear if they're quietly, running a new executive search for one. But this shift from focusing on hardware sales to software sales aligns with what Barry McCarthy has been saying recently since taking over that CEO role, especially with the new Peloton One Club, with renting the bikes, focusing more on, the software aspect. So,
yeah. All right. Well, anyone out there looking for a really big piece of land out in Cleveland? Well, you better be quick, because it does seem that the Output Park site is getting a lot of interest from prospective buyers. And of course, that's if you have about $85 million to spend. But it turns out that the roof, walls, and perimeter floors are nearly completed at the site, which had originally been planned for Peloton when they broke ground back in August of 2021. Apparently, the remaining floors, though, will be left unfinished, as the floor thickness would vary depending on the end user of the site. So it does depend a lot as to who ends up, purchasing it and how they want the flooring to be done. Apparently, there are very few available sites that offer a 1.2 million square feet of manufacturing space. So the understanding is that this piece of land is in high demand.
Doesn't seem like they'll have much trouble turning that over, getting that off their balance
maybe
sheet.
It'll help raise the stock. Maybe it'll help raise the stock. Okay, we're not going there. We're not going there.
We got to move on. Anyways, happy birthday. We missed Cody's birthday, which seems like an eternity ago. I think it was almost 2 weeks ago. But I posted a really fun, if you didn't see it on YouTube or Instagram or the official Peloton member page, I posted a fun little birthday highlight tribute reel to Cody of some funny moments, especially over the last couple of years. But it was also Rad Lopez's birthday and Joslyn Thompson Rules. So happy birthday.
It sure was. And let's go right into Instructor in the news. First up, popsugar.com had an article titled "Your Favorite Peloton Instructors on Confidence, Britney Spears, and Dance Hall Beats." This particular article had featured Alex Toussaint, Hannah Frankson, Aditi Shah, and Cody Rigsby, and it spoke about how the platform has become life for thousands of users, with Peloton being that household name. It does talk about how folks were alone in the early months of the pandemic, with someone like Hannah Frankson being the only person that they'd see consistently every day. It talks about how nights out with friends turned into at-home dance parties with Cody, or how folks would settle their anxiety and help fall asleep to meditations with Aditi. Each one of the instructors mentioned that I've mentioned did chat with Pop Sugar about their impact on the Peloton community. It's a really fun article, and I do encourage you to head over to pelobuddy.com to read the full article.
Nice. Well, Cody was recently interviewed for Wondermind. The interview is titled "Inside the Mind of Cody Rigsby," and he talks a lot about struggling. As of recent, he said, "I think a big thing that I'm recognizing right now, especially as I think about my mental health and things that I'm talking to my therapist about, is that my life has really shifted over the past year and a half or 2 years with Peloton, with success, notoriety, fame, whatever you want to call it." He said he's starting to recognize that he's lost a little bit of himself through success and fame. And I can see that because with Dancing with the Stars, he's definitely one of the most recognizable public faces of Peloton with, being on TV. He's on people are always seem to mention seeing him on the Gatorade commercial. And, he's definitely has one of the biggest public figure status, I guess you could say, celebrity status of the Instructor. So I could see how he get caught up in that fame and that everything around it. So, but it was interesting because he didn't really seem to hold back. Because the interviewer said, "Oh, how are you doing?" He said, "Frankly, I'm not doing my best." So he was really putting it out there.
Being raw and vulnerable. All right. Well, gorgeous Aditi Shah was featured and is on the cover of SEMA magazine as a new star in the yoga world. So huge kudos to Aditi. What a beautiful picture. And she is just a gorgeous human being. Everybody knows how much I love her. So that was fantastic.
And Allie Love, back on June 5th, she posted on her Instagram that she was accepted into Harvard Business School's entertainment and media program, business, entertainment, and media program, and spending a week at HBS. So back to college for a little bit for Allie, but I'm sure we'll hear more about her. I haven't seen anything following up from that, so I'm sure we'll hear more about that when she posts.
Awesome. And huge congratulations to Tunde and her book Speak for making Amazon's list of best books for the year in 1, nonfiction, and 2, business and leadership. So she's really done amazingly with that book.
And on the topic of books, Robin recently announced her second children's book called Strong Baby. You can pre-order it on Amazon. We have an affiliate link on pelobuddy.com, but she shared the news via Instagram with the new cover of it. And she said, Strong Baby celebrates that babies are innate athletes. Watching Athena, her baby daughter, and her friends use movement as play as the foundation for this book. It officially comes out February 21st of 2023, so just around the corner. And she also recently announced that she's got a new partnership with Diff Sunglasses. She has a line of sunglasses she's promoting. So I know on her Instagram, she's got a shop link to it. I didn't look at, Jackie she has some Diff sunglasses.
It's
but
so funny though, because I had just bought 2 pairs of Diff sunglasses. I got a coupon, and then literally 2 days later, she came out with a collab. So I got to go back and take a look at them. I do like Diff sunglasses. They're a great brand and just fun and light, and I love mine. I love my sunglasses. So definitely, there was one pair I didn't love that Robin was collabing on, but there was the second pair that I did actually think were really cool. So that was nice. And Chelsea Jackson Roberts is headed to Times Square for some yoga for a program titled Solstice in Times Square. You can find Chelsea between 5:30 and 6:30 instructing a class as part of that program. And that pretty much wraps up the Instructor in the news. All right, so next up is Picks of the Week, and I'll kick it off, John. So first up is Benny Adami. Art of Balance said this ride was 100% pride. It was Benny's 30-minute 90s pop ride from June 10th at 2 a.m. Eastern.
And Fleetwood Mom submitted Tobias Hines' 20-minute rock run from June 10th. She said, Tobias's rock run was so great. The music was awesome. The energy of the people in the studio. He was so happy and excited. And the Germans need more love. Just such a fun, motivating class.
Love it. John Hosking, 30-minute pop run, also from June 10th. Rycon Mom said energy was great with members in Peloton Studios, London. Time flew by. And yeah, that's my much debatable milestone ride. It was a pretty awesome ride, and the playlist was fantastic. So Rycon Mom, thank you for suggesting it.
And you won't hear a shout out for Seglo 3 in it. So go crazy.
You will not.
Next up, this is one of my picks, as well as Ellie Syed and WW72. It's Cody's live DJ ride it's actually his 30-minute Pride live DJ ride from June 10th. Super fun class. The energy was great. I mean, the studio, they were pretty subdued, not your like wild, typical live Cody ride, but it was also great to see Jeffrey McEachern. He was riding a bike in the studio, and they gave him a lot of love at a couple points during the ride. So super fun ride.
Awesome. Tunde Oyenoyan's 30-minute intervals and arms from the 11th, June the 11th. Leah Seychelles said death by fours was no joke.
And we have Joslyn Thompson Rules 15-minute soul walk from June 14th. That was submitted by Sandy Sneakers, and they said really fun vibe from Joslyn.
Hannah Frankson, 20-minute R&B ride. That was from the 15th of June. Mrs. Hand Ratty, Vegan Girl Nerd, and Jackie Spins 18 all had picked these as their pick of the week. Comments were the playlist was fire. Hannah brought the right energy. That was the right kind of messy hot. It was one to sing and dance along to while on the bike. Peloton After Dark.
And Country Music Lady 229 recommended Ben Aldis's 10-minute bodyweight strength class from June 15th. She said, I love how he always has to comment on his music.
There were bangers and belters, bangers and belters.
You know it.
And then next up, Snowfish recommended Ali Love's 30-minute 2000s rock ride from the 15th. It was at 7:30 a.m. Pure nostalgia and great format was the comments that were made.
And one of my picks here, Rebecca Kennedy's most recent 45-minute hiking tread boot camp from Wednesday, June 15th. These are just so nice, such a nice switch up from running on the tread. I really love, increasing the incline. Just a super fun class and really good workout on the mat as well. So if you haven't dipped into one of RK's, checked out one of her hiking tread boot camps, definitely highly recommend it.
It was the first one that I missed, and I have to tell you, I was driving back from New York, and I can't wait to do it because I've done all of them. This was the first one that I missed. I'm looking forward to doing it. Next up is Leanne's 30-minute Barbra Streisand ride from the 15th. Stop. And I wasn't alone. Mamacita 64 said intervals, climbs, and recoveries were perfectly paired with the song choices. Singing along the whole time, 30 minutes just flew by. She picked literally every one of Barbra's fantastic songs. It was the most amazing. She looked spectacular. Leanne is back. It is amazing to see her back on the bike. And I have to say, kudos to Leanne. I mean, I had just gotten and I'm doing a side note, I had just gotten my hair highlighted and cut and colored. And I was dreading doing it because I knew that I was going to, lose all this beautiful thing that had been done. And it was worth every sweat that occurred from that particular ride. So it was fantastic.
Next up is Andy Spears' 30-minute tread boot camp, full body, from June 15th. This was submitted by Sean Spinstar. He said, what a rush. 30 minutes flew by. It might have been a shorter boot camp, but by the end, I had what Jess Sims would call an old-fashioned donut sweat angel. Followed it up with his live walk plus run. And it was a perfect workout combo. Great to set to when you want to do an effective workout with some variety and modality. And then mine, going into my pick, is Andy's second class that I just mentioned there, his 20-minute walk plus run, also from June 15th. Just a super fun playlist, and it was really nice to switch up between not having to run the whole time and walking in different segments. Fun class.
Next up is mine. It is John Husking's 20-minute 2000s walk. If all you have is 20 minutes, take this walk. I mean, I've said it 1,000 times. John is hysterical on the tread, but the playlist that he had was bangers and belters. It was absolutely fantastic. Definitely make sure you take that one.
And next up, we have ARC 1702 recommended Ben's 30-minute 80s ride from June 16th. They said intervals and great music, fun to sing along to. And then I'll do the next one because this is one of mine. Yep. Cody's 30-minute pop ride from Thursday morning, June 16th at 6 a.m. Cody taught at 6 a.m., which I think a lot of people just tuned in just to see what was going to happen, because this could be very well have been Cody's very first 6 a.m. class, at least in the past 5 years, because I don't remember one. I don't remember 6 a.m., but he was surprisingly alert and colorful, and it had a summertime playlist theme. A lot of the song tracks had summer in the title of them, but a lot of funny different moments from Cody. So it was definitely worth getting up at, to ride at 6 a.m. for, but highly recommended. Super fun class.
Awesome. And then Mexi Cali girl, she had picked Mariana Fernandez's 45-minute yoga flow from the 16th. It was an 8 a.m. class, had beautiful messages, and the flow was really nice.
Nice. And Aphid Cookie is one of my Peloton friends. And Chin Smiles both recommended Jess Sims' Saturday 60. Or no, not Saturday 60. It's her 60-minute bike boot camp, full body. From June 16th, they said class was so hard, but so good.
Awesome. And that wraps up the picks of the week. So if you're still with us, and we know it's a long show this week, but we're giving you 2 weeks in one. I mean, you got to remember that it is 2 weeks in one. Don't miss out on Jules's interview about the Peloton London studios. It was lovely to get to hear what she had to say. And I definitely encourage you guys to stay tuned and keep listening. Well, we're going to go ahead and kick off today's show with the very special guest, Jules Katharina from the German community. Hey, Jules, how you doing?
Hi, Amanda. I'm very good. How are you?
I am fantastic. It's an absolute honor to have you back on the show. It's been some time. I've missed having you on here, but you are going to give us some fantastic first-hand information on what it's like to be in the studio. So, folks, last week, as you all know, both the Peloton Studios London and the Peloton Studios New York was finally opened up to members, press, etc. And Jules was invited to attend the very first live ride with German instructor Eric Jaeger. And Jules, for those of you that haven't watched the show for a long time, we used to get on to give us all the amazing German news. So I am thrilled to have you here. And you know what? Nobody wants to hear from me, Jules. So I am going to give it away to you. And I want you to tell me everything from the minute you stepped into Floral Street to the minute you stepped out. So tell me kind of how it came about and then kind of go from there.
Absolutely, Amanda. Pleasure to talk about this because I'm still, as you can see, I'm smiling about it as if I'm right now going into the studio. Essentially, as some of you know, again, who watched the show ages ago, I'm the founder of the German ladies community, but I also live in London actually myself. So obviously there's already 2 ticking boxes. I'm a German who lives in London, so perfect opportunity for Peloton to get me into the studio. Because of the community, I do have a few direct contacts within Peloton. And they've actually reached out and just asked me if I wanted to be part of one of the first German classes live. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. I'll come after work. I'll join. And it's been, wow, what an experience it was. I mean, this was literally the first day the studio was open. So obviously, it was all very much, I think for everyone involved in this operation, it was like a lot of firsts, right? Like first time with members after the pandemic, first time actually the London studio because the previous studio was somewhere else. So it was all new state of the art equipment. I think everyone was just so excited. Like I keep saying this, but like any person I met in the studio, whether it was a member, whether it was staff, whether it was even the security guards, like they couldn't have had a bigger smile on their face because it was just such an amazing atmosphere. And it was so organized. So you got in, we had to fill out a few forms, in terms of obviously we're still in a pandemic, like fill out couple of forms, also making sure, that you're riding at your own risk. And then, we essentially were shown the changing rooms, which are, I wish my bathroom was this nice, Amanda, if I'm honest.
I'm going to stop you there for a minute because I think people are going to be curious to know. So just step back a little bit as far as the pandemic goes. What did you have to be vaccinated? Did you have to show a negative PCR? Was there anything like that was required?
So I can only comment on London, which obviously follows the UK rules. Yes. And as far as it's just said that you're riding at your own risk. So at the moment, for those folks who are tuning in from outside of the UK, there's pretty much no rules at this stage in the UK anymore when it comes to vaccinations. I'm not sure what it's like in New York. So it was fairly easy.
Okay, good. Yep. Perfect.
Yeah, and
keep going.
Changing rooms, man, like they absolutely amazing. So a huge setup. So essentially the studio itself in London is on, I think, 3 floors itself. The ground floor you come in is all the check-in. There's like, I think 2 studios on that floor. But then actually when you go downstairs, that's where all the changing rooms are, all the magic happens in terms of beauty and everything. But yeah, they have everything you need. So I think one of the main concerns I think myself and fellow riders had were like, well, do we need to bring towels? Like, is there shower gel? Like, do they have like hair dryers? No, you don't. Like, they have literally everything, and not just everything.
Wow.
They have like Malin and Guts products, like really, really nice beauty products. They have Dyson hair dryers. There is so much space. Like, I think you're never going to have to queue for a shower, unlike some other boutique fitness studios. There's lockers to put your stuff away, and yeah, essentially everything there to get you ready. And then you even have the opportunity to also rent your shoes. If you don't bring your cycling shoes, you can also rent them in the studio. But yeah, essentially you come upstairs. There's, I think, 2 studios on the ground floor. I'm pretty sure one of them is a tread studio, but I was only in the bike class, so I'm not entirely sure. And then, yeah, you're just waiting there in anticipation, waiting for them to open the doors, which, yeah, I think I was a bundle of nerves, Amanda. Like, I was just, it's like the show the class hadn't even started yet. And I was always like, oh my God, I'm going to get in. It's like, it feels like, the 90s when people were queuing up for, I don't know, NSYNC, Backstreet Boys or something. That was the atmosphere.
Right.
Yeah. And then class-wise,
and then of course being able to get to ride with Eric, as we all know, is just in himself a god. So that in itself can give you anxiety and stress, knowing that you're going to be sweating in front of him.
Absolutely. I mean, we essentially, as I said, we had to already, I think, start queuing 40 minutes before the class. We got go into the class 30 minutes before the scheduled live time. And while obviously we were all setting up our bikes, so one of the key things is actually, members, do remember your settings, because I totally forgot mine. I was like, which letter was that again? That because I never changed my bike. So you have to set up your own bike, obviously. And then, essentially they're doing a few sound checks. And then obviously for us in this opening class, there was so many surprises. So we were doing so much wooing, like we were just screaming our lungs out before the class even had started, supposedly for, sound checks, but also I'm pretty sure it was just the general atmosphere where everyone was just so excited that they wanted to constantly woo. But then also the big surprise was that we were joined by other instructors. So, we were sitting there minding our own business, being like, when's it starting? And then suddenly Cliff and Mila were walking in and just setting up right in front of me. And I was like, oh my God, like what? What's happening? And then it kept going. So obviously we're wooing for them. Like the class hadn't even started yet. Then suddenly Mila and Sam Yo came into the class and we're like, okay. Yeah. So we were really starstruck by like the people that were sitting in the audience with us, just like, casually next to other members. And we're like, wow. And then Eric came in and, as I was saying, if, the sounds we were making, it was like as if we were at a concert. We were screaming. I keep joking with friends. I was like, I'm surprised nobody brought in plushed animals to throw at him, because it was that starstruck moment. But yeah, it was such an experience. And then the class.
And then was he escorted in? Sorry to interrupt you, but I remember from the past, was he escorted in with like kind of a security guard? Because I remember that's how they used to do it before.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there was a security guard. I mean, there was so many like Peloton employees. Yeah, so many producers, so many people surrounding all the different instructors. I wouldn't be surprised if one of them was definitely security. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, good. Got it. All right, so then he hopped on and obviously wooed with you guys.
Yeah, I mean, it got essentially, he was introducing himself. He was, saying that he's so excited. He did a bit of chit chat. I think he was probably in the class already, I'd say like 10 minutes before the actual start time. So we had plenty of time to sort of set himself up. He said himself, he was so nervous because, he has had some member classes in the past, I think just before the pandemic, because he joined, I think it was January 2020. So there was 2 months where he actually was used to having members in the studio. But obviously for him, it was a whole new experience as well. So he was just like, guys, I'm so nervous. Like, I'm as nervous as you guys are. And we're like, oh, I don't think so, but yeah. But yeah, it was amazing. He was just going through, I guess, the like people that are in the studio, just making sure that are there any milestones actually in the studio. He was having a look at like the hashtags that were riding in the studio, and constantly asking us to shout, doing like a little, asking one part of the room to essentially shout as loud as they could, and then versus the other part of the room. But essentially what happened is that I'm talking about myself, I don't know about anyone else, but I was already exhausted by the time the ride even started. I was like, it got to the first minute of the ride, and I was like, I can't breathe, I don't have any voice.
Oh, that is too funny.
Yeah, no, it was fantastic. Yeah. The ride itself, I think anyone can take it, on demand now. You can tell the atmosphere in the studio. You can tell how people were feeling about it. Because I think it filters through, even though we're in the background. It was absolutely fantastic. Like, to be honest, I don't remember the half of the 20 minutes. Like, all I remember was I was just like, am I on camera? I don't know. And like, you keep seeing like the different camera angles as well. So there's like so many different cameras. And like the second the light is red, you're like, okay, there might be a chance I'm getting filmed right now. So it's kind of like that weird feeling of like, I'm in a fitness class. Obviously, I'm wanting to follow what Eric is doing, but there's so much going on next to you that you're like, wow, like this is such an experience.
Amazing. Just amazing. It's just insane. So okay. So the class is done now. And of course, you're pedaling away. You're just hoping that you're not going to die or fall off your bike. And having the other instructors there as well. As far as the bikes go, are they all pluses? They're all bike pluses?
No. So again, I can't talk about New York, and I know there's a different studio in London as well that does bikes, but the one we were in, it was all standard bikes. The only difference to, I guess, our at-home bikes is that they have like a much, much smaller screen. So there's a tiny screen at the front where you can, essentially you have to lock yourself in with your Peloton account details, and then you see a big screen. Well, the small screen has essentially a big screen that just says your resistance and your cadence and your output. And then there's a tiny bit on the side where you can give high fives to in-studio riders, but there's also a tiny tab where you can essentially go into the live class, so anyone that's at home. But it's a bit delayed as well, because I think there's about a 30-second delay or something between what's actually going on in the studio and what's going on at home. So it was, to be honest with you, like with everything that was going on with like, you looking at the instructor cameras, like other riders next to you, the instructors, I wasn't even paying attention to that, like to who's in the audience or not. I was just like, okay, someone's high-fiving me, I guess I'm just pressing it. But it's quite interactive as well.
So I'm curious, Jules, had you not ridden in the studio pre-pandemic?
I have actually. No, I have ridden. So I did.
You had?
I think
Okay.
Yeah, it was 2019.
Did you feel it to be? Was there a difference? Other than obviously that the studio. I've ridden in London, so I know what that studio is like. But this one is far superior. But was there anything else that was different, kind of in the actual class, or was it pretty similar to how it had been before?
I think, if I'm not wrong, like previously in the London studio, they actually had a mirror behind the instructor. So, which in the studio we were in, they didn't, which I think for the at-home audience is obviously quite nice, because you're not seeing too many riders, which I get, some members might not like that as much. So I think that was probably the biggest difference, because I think the old studio, which obviously it was tiny, it felt like it was, you were in that studio, Amanda, it felt like it was in someone else's apartment, that small.
Correct.
Yeah, but I think that was pretty much it. I think capacity-wise, it felt pretty much the same in terms of like how many other Peloton bikes were in there. But
I think they're 21, if I'm not mistaken. I believe they're 21 bikes and 2 rows, right? If I'm not mistaken. So pretty similar to what they had before.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay. So now we're kind of getting through this ride, and the adrenaline is just building up, and everybody is just in another world.
Absolutely. Yeah. As I said, the 20 minutes just flew by. Like, as I said, I don't even, like, I barely remember contents of it. All I remember was just like, wow, like what is going on? There's so much happening. I think, and then following the ride, essentially. So Eric left the studio then. They waited a bit to like give us some time and space also to make sure that we don't all leave at the same time. So there was a bit of like, waiting in the studio. We then had the opportunity to either have a shower or go straight up to the cafe. So one of the cool things in the London studio is that in this top floor, essentially, they have a little cafe. And during this ride, because it was obviously the soft launch and stuff, they provided like free drinks, free food for us, little goodie bags and stuff. So it felt a bit more like a press event sort of thing. and we had the opportunity to take pictures. So Eric essentially joined us up there, and they had like a little, it's quite nice actually, they have like this little, I wouldn't almost call it like a photo wall, like there's like the big Peloton. It's almost like they definitely designed this just so like for people to take pictures with instructors, because you have obviously the Peloton logo in there. And then they took pictures of us, like we got to chat to Eric a bit, and then Eric was super cute. He actually so all of us members were all just in the end sitting in the cafe, like chatting away, like drinking our juices and whatever, and Eric actually went and just sat with us like for I don't know 10-15 minutes and was just chatting with the members. So it was really nice to just have a bit of like, I guess, meeting him outside of a class and like chatting with him, and he was just so lovely. Like I can't even reiterate how nice he was in real life. So what he's, I think if I had to describe him, like when you're one-on-one with him, he's like in the classes, like he's such a genuine guy. So it was such a nice opportunity to meet him like that as well.
Right. And I guess, look, again, you were so fortunate to have been there as, a very, very first look. I'm assuming that as it gets more intense and they start having more, that obviously won't be happening. Sometimes the instructors, in the past had kind of sat around and chatted, but I'm assuming that really was being the first opportunity for people to be in the studio, gave you a little bit more liberty to have that one-on-one and that that chat time with him. So that you have to be very fortunate and just know how truly lucky you are that you got to do that, which is wonderful.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. Yeah, I can't see this with like the amount of classes that are going to be live there, even like in the upcoming Fridays and stuff. We'll see what happens. Obviously, I think, because as I said to you, like I'm quite lucky that like I work in London. I'm not too far from the studio. I think there might be a few more opportunities that I have to actually go into the studio. So I'll report back how it's going with like, instructor meetups and stuff.
Definitely want to hear that. And I do know, just having looked at social media, and you were fortunate enough to get to meet some of the others. I know that Leanne and Ben were there, and obviously John was doing his live run. So it was just a party. It was a party.
It was.
And there was no question that stateside, there was major FOMO going on. Seriously, for me, I was so happy for all of you to have been there and to have seen you guys. But there's no question it would be undeniable if I said I wasn't feeling very jealous.
Well, Amanda, we, as we say, now have even more of an excuse to come back to London. So you need to come, essentially.
I can't wait. And, I'll be there. I had this plan for July, but we'll wait till November when things are probably maybe a little bit more calmer and things will be more routine for everybody, because it's got to be such an overwhelming experience, because I'm sure even the staff are all new. Everybody has to be new, and this was probably such an overwhelming experience for everybody. And I think as the weeks go on.
And the funniest anecdote was, I think, just as you were saying this, like, the staff I knew, it was so funny because as we were checking in, and obviously keep in mind, this was the very first live class, like even from the UK classes, there was no class before that, right? So as we're checking in, the staff was like, so have you been here before? And I was like, how do I answer that? It's like, I don't think so.
Right, they're given a script.
Literally, yeah.
Oh, that's hysterical. I love that you shared that, because truthfully, they've been given a script. This is what they have to ask, and they have memorized it, and that's what they're saying. Oh, that is too funny. That is too funny. Well, Jules, it sounds like this is going to be, we've certainly spoken about it on the show before. There are definitely folks that aren't thrilled about the fact that members are going to be there. Reminding everybody again, the purpose of the Peloton platform is truly to have the convenience of being able to work out at home. And John and I always tease about how, folks will say, well, why aren't you opening a studio in LA? And why aren't you opening a studio in here? And, remember, folks, there are 2 studios, but they're purely there to be, a vessel to record these classes for the instructors, and the fact that they are opening back up because it is fun. And you know what? It gives folks an opportunity. I get not everybody is able to travel. And, I feel very fortunate. I worked in London for many years, so I was able to go back and forth, and that was why I did it. And for anybody that is able to travel, whether it be to New York or to London, what a wonderful opportunity to be able to get to do this. As we'll talk more about in the show, they are only doing it on the weekend. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday will be the only time folks will be able to, once it opens up full time, to be able to ride, in a member class. And then the rest of the week will be coach to camera with live classes, obviously, but just no members in them. And I guess that gives the balance. To folks, of being able to do a class with people in them versus doing a class without. I think it's fantastic, having done many classes, in studio. It's a wonderful adrenaline push. Sometimes you feel, and I don't know if you, as you said, it went by so fast, but I remember, pushing myself sometimes where I think I threw up on the side, on the side of the road afterwards, because I'd like, you got to compete with everyone around you. But what an amazing experience. So thank you. Is there anything else that I missed? Was there anything else you wanted to share?
No, I think just, if you get the opportunity, obviously, as you said, I know some people, it's like there's only 2 locations, it's New York and London. So I know for some people this might be too far, but if you ever get the chance, if you're happening to be in London or New York for sightseeing, I would so recommend going to the studio. And I think for those of you at home who might not be enjoying seeing us, just if you ever spot me in the audience, just laugh at me because I'm the one dying there. So essentially just use it as your extra push, because you're like, look at that girl over there. Like what's going on there? Like just use it like that. I think that's enough motivation.
You're too funny. And I'm sure that's not the case, but absolutely. And I think you folks have the ability to just block the members out and just focus on the instructor. And and I think they need to tone things down. I know that they spoke about some of the colors that people wore can be a bit distracting. So, maybe, and there's talk about maybe colors changing and having people go into more muted colors, with no craziness. So, John Pruitt, you're not going to be able to wear your, crazy shirts and, be wooing in the front of the class. But I know that was something that folks have definitely said that can be distracting, for folks wearing caps or things in their hair, just didn't, can sometimes portray differently on camera and can be distracting. So I have to say, this is so exciting. It is amazing to get a first-hand, step by step of how everything went down. I so appreciate you taking the time to chat with us. This is going to be a longer than normal show, folks. You missed last week, but we could not have Jules tell us everything that went on. And hopefully we'll have you back once things are back up, and maybe after you get into a tread class too.
Oh yeah.
So, really exciting. Well, Jules, thank you. Thanks for taking the time to come on, and look out for me in November. I'll be right there next to you on the bike.
Thank you so much for having me, Amanda. And I cannot wait for you and hopefully Prue as well to come to London. Yep. And so excited for that. Thank you so much for having me.
Pelo Buddy TV will take over. So we'll go in there, and I don't know, London certainly know about Pelo Buddy more than the US do. So there's no question we're coming in full force. And hey, what a wonderful opportunity. Well, thanks, Jules. I appreciate it. And I will see you guys soon.
Bye.
Yeah, so I guess, John, that pretty much wraps up the show. I know, folks, that there was so much that we gave you, but as I said, it was 2 weeks in one. Thanks so much, as always, for taking the time to listen. It was really heartwarming to see how many people reached out to either ask me why the show wasn't happening, and then once I posted on my social media that it wasn't happening, to thank me for clarifying that it wasn't happening. So sorry about that. And we're back. John and I are back. Hopefully we'll try and give you as much as we can through the summer. But thanks so much for tuning in, for listening, and we'll see you all soon. Bye from Maryland.
Yeah. And for me in Michigan, appreciate you. watching and listening to us. And as always, we will see you on the leaderboard.
Thank you for watching Pelo Buddy TV, your source for everything Peloton, by the community, for the community. Work out with us using the Pelo Buddy TV leaderboard tag and find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Pelo Buddy. Don't forget that we have a podcast available so that you can listen to us while on the move. Just search for Pelo Buddy TV on any major platform and hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode.